Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube page. My name is Eric, and today we are going to be talking about the cost of Jesus. Now, if you're new here, I make Christian videos on life, apologetics, and current events. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, hit the subscribe button with the bell and the notifications so that you can be notified whenever I upload. The honest truth is that the gospel can be costly to people. You need not look any further than the Middle East to see what Christians can potentially go through just for accepting the gospel. And it's not exclusive to that area. China and in many African countries as well. Things are pretty bad to be a Christian. And these things are not new to Christians by any means. Jesus even says many statements, such as that you will suffer persecution, and that brother will betray brother to death. And he even encouraged his disciples, fear not those who can kill the body but can't kill the soul, but instead fear the one who can destroy the body and soul in hell. Implying that his followers would very often, at least in the first century, go through potential executions. And we know that this actually did happen because of the first century persecution of Christians under Nero. Jesus also makes a lot of very harsh statements. If you do not bear your cross, then you cannot be my disciple. You cannot be my disciple unless you give up everything that you have. He also says countless other things that would imply that following him is very costly. So, needless to say, with many people who claim to be Christians living fairly decent, comfortable lives, that begs the question, how many true Christians really are there? These requirements are not universal for every single believer. In one sense. Think of it this way. They are universal in the sense that every single believer has to follow Jesus, no matter what the cost is. That is a requirement. However, for many people, the requirement to give up things is not going to be the same. It's just like the marriage requirements in the Bible. There are very few reasons in the Bible to actually get a divorce. But at the same time, many people who are in good, healthy marriages find this commandment to be pretty easy. On the other hand, there are people who are in marriages and are struggling, and they find it absolutely terrifying and daunting. In the same way, Jesus does give the same requirement. You must put your trust in me for your salvation and nobody else. That's the requirement to be saved. But other people may impose things on you if you do it. The requirement doesn't change. But other people may do certain things to you if you follow the requirement. Just like the marriage laws don't change because some people are inconvenienced, neither is the gospel changed because some people have to give up a lot. If you want to make a rule out of this, then I guess you could say it like this. All believers are required to choose Jesus over their family if their family basically disowns them over it. And all believers are required to choose Jesus as opposed to their own life, if it comes down to it. Now, the likelihood that Christians in Western countries are going to face the kind of persecution in Middle Eastern countries is not very likely. But could it happen? Sure. It's rare, but it could. How do I know that the results of following Jesus will not be the same for everybody? Well, all we have to do is read the Gospels. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." So the man went away and told all over town how much Jesus had done for him. Now, if you just read that, Jesus told the man to just return home. He told him, go home, and you don't abandon everybody. Don't leave everything you have. Just go home and tell people about me. And he went and did. Now, is this just an isolated example? Well, let's take a look at Zacchaeus, chapter 19, verses 5 through 10. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost." Now notice, he didn't give up everything he had, but he did have to give back what he cheated, which is frankly a decent thing to do. That, honestly, I don't see how anybody, whether you're a Christian or not, could argue with that. But given the fact that he was a tax collector and a very wealthy person, which is what chapter 19, verse 2 says, giving up half your possessions, you're still going to live pretty comfortably. Jesus didn't ask every person he healed to just abandon everything that they had and follow him. No, in many cases he just said, "What do you want me to do for you?" And in some cases he even had them keep it a secret. For example, the leper in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus healed him and simply told him to go to the temple and make the offering and show himself to the priests. Jesus also told the paralytic that in the same Gospel of Matthew that his sins were forgiven, and all he did was heal him and tell him to rise up and walk. Did he ask that he would give up everything he had? No, he didn't. Now let's also take a look at what happened after Jesus ascended into heaven. Did the jailer in the book of Acts, chapter 16, have to give up everything he had? No. In fact, he and his entire family became saved, and that was the end of that. They did wash their wounds, the wounds of Paul and Silas and everybody else, but really, that's it. And it's the same with Cornelius in Acts 10. He accepted the gospel, he and his entire family. Did he have to just forsake every single thing and give up his life? No. So why did Jesus make these statements? Well, because again, there are countless people who, especially in the first century, would be killed, disowned, and in some cases even crucified for their faith. And Jesus presented the possibilities very realistically. He never meant it as some sort of universal statement that if you are not forsaking your family, you're not a real disciple or something like that. But the long and short answer of what Jesus is costing to people, there is no set answer. It's going to look different for different people, but no matter what the cost is, you must choose Jesus. Now, if your family loves that, that's great. If your family is indifferent to it, fine, still choose Jesus. Even if your family is hostile, though, take comfort in the fact that Jesus himself not only endured horrible torture and horrible rejection, but there are countless other brothers and sisters who have as well. So you are not alone in this, and you will receive a crown of life in the end. The reason I wanted to make this video is because there are countless people who constantly try and say that Jesus will cost you everything. Jesus has to cost you a lot. If your Christian life is essentially going well, or even, if you're not sacrificing a lot, you're doing it wrong. Well, while it is technically true that the Christian life should not be easy, it is also true that Christianity simply does not cost every single person the same thing. That's true in the Bible, and it's true now. There are countless preachers who constantly try and romanticize persecution, and they try and say, oh, well, people don't sacrifice enough. We are lukewarm, we are living comfortable lives. That would be like if a married couple who was having horrible troubles and struggling to stay together went up to a bunch of other couples who were having good marriages and said, well, you guys, you aren't really married, because if your marriage isn't hard, you're doing it wrong. Now that would be absurd, and we'd all recognize it. Again, Christianity is not meant to be easy, at least not as a whole. Just like marriage is not ever easy, at least not all the time. But there are certain marriages that are easier, and there are certain walks of faith that certain people have that are easier than others. But I want to kill this seemingly growing notion that so many people have, that if your life doesn't reflect the worst examples of what happened to people in the Gospels, that somehow you are less than, or something like that. Because it isn't true. It's false. And if anybody tries to guilt you into, not looking different enough or doing that, don't be discouraged and don't listen to them. Now, for those of you who may be wondering, how do I know if I'm saved, and what must I do to be saved, and how many people are going to be saved in the end? Is it only going to be a few people? I have videos on all of those, and they'll be in the description. below. So I hope you all enjoyed this video today. I hope that it has given you some assurance. And if you want to stay updated for future content, hit the like and subscribe button. That really helps promote these videos. And I'll see y'all next week. Bye everyone.